Evening, everybody. Welcome to another Brother Rose podcast episode for this October 8th, 2024. Now, guys, we have a lot to get to. There's been a lot going on. Coming off the heels of a rather bloody Bad Blood. We got that coming up. We got WrestleDream coming up this coming Saturday, live from Washington. And we also have the Dynasty as they present Return to Neverland. And it's definitely, I'll say this much. What we're seeing right now, and I'm just going to try to share the show so people can watch and hopefully interact with us. We're supposed to have a guest on. I'm not sure if they're still coming on or not. I haven't heard anything, so we'll wait and see on that one. But I know we do have a guest co-host coming in, but I won't announce that until we get closer to it. Also, guys, I do want to make one other announcement. The Around the Ropes podcast will now be known as the voice of the Dynasty. Because, guys, I said this for a while now. You guys know how much I put over the Dynasty. Because, crap, what they've done has been insane. And, guys, like I said before, our guest co-host is here right now. So let me give him his proper introduction. Guys, there is a lot of individuals behind who get credit for the Dynasty, for what we see in the ring. But there's needs to go credit to people behind the cameras. And one of them is joining me tonight. The one, the only, Brian Steele. What's going on?
How we doing, John?
Doing good. I was trying to give you a proper introduction.
I greatly appreciate that wonderful introduction. No need to give me any flowers. I am the man behind the camera.
Yeah, but you're the guy who brings all the action to everybody who can't be there.
That's my job. My goal is to try and provide the best action that I can with a great select group of people.
Yeah, no, I would agree on that. And there's a lot I want to get into because we are coming off the heels of the 1 year anniversary. And I know Chris doesn't like to call it the anniversary, but everybody kind of looks at it as the anniversary.
Yeah.
And were you at that first show?
What's that?
Were you at that first show, the Capital Gains?
So I was at Capital Gains. We had a reunion show actually before Capital Gains at the Inman Center in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So that was the lead into everything for me. That was actually my first ever Dynasty.
Oh, okay. Looking at that Capital Gains show, did you think back then it would end up becoming what Dynasty became?
So over the course of this past year, things have rapidly evolved for Dynasty to where it's more than what I had ever expected with what my role is, what the things that I've been talking to and working with Chris on, and just the overall dynamic that Dynasty's gone into. Having a wonderful home for Empire Live for a lot of our bigger name events, I feel has just elevated Dynasty to that next level, really.
No, I've coined the phrase of I don't call it Empire Live anymore. I call it the Dynasty Arena.
I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know how they.
Yeah, I would say Empire Live may not like that so much, but every time we talk about Empire Live, it's always in regards to Dynasty.
Well, it's great for promotions to have like a marquee venue that they utilize for a lot of their stuff. And Empire Live does such a great aspect of working with us in the needs of what we need for putting on those type of events.
Yeah, no, I would agree on that. And I remember that first show back in October, and I've said this a lot on here. That didn't feel like a wrestling show to me. That felt like almost like a movie.
Yeah, I'm talking with Chris and myself and all of the other people involved with running the cameras and stuff like that. We try to aim for that because we're trying to do something different. We just don't want the footage shot. We want it to be more cinematic and have that feel to where it's going to draw the audience in a little bit more, and they're like, wow, look at what these guys over at Dynasty are doing compared to other promotions.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And I mean, I've said this before. I got brought in with Dynasty actually through Billy.
Love Billy.
I was talking to Billy. Actually, it's funny that it's on the same weekend of the Hall of Fame, because at the Hall of Fame last year, I remember having a conversation with her in up by like where the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is,
Yep.
and like they have like those tables at the other end. And I remember talking to her, and I was getting something. I remember what it was. Oh, I think it was talks on me doing commentary for a company. Lo and behold, I ended up doing commentary for Battleground almost a year later, but I digress. But I remember sitting there, and she had said to me, she goes, "Oh, she goes, don't tell anybody, but I'm actually going to become the backstage reporter for Dynasty." And at that point, I was only really coming up there for Immortal at that point. And I was like, you know what? I need to go to something different, because I'm nothing against what Immortal's doing. They're putting out some great stuff, but it was the same stuff over and over and
Right.
over again. And I was like, oh, I don't know, unless it's too far, then I won't do it. And I looked at the address, and I was like, oh, like it's literally right off the thruway.
Yeah.
And I happened to have off that weekend. I was like, you know what? Let me make the trip. Why not? And I remember, I went to the show, and I think except for the Marlboro 2 show and the show coming up this weekend, I have basically made the trip for every show.
Right. Let me tell you, it broke my heart when you stated that you weren't coming up, and I understand the reasoning why, but the fact that you're not going to be a part of the show, I mean, is always a blow to us as well, because we enjoy having you at every event,
Yeah.
regardless.
Oh,
Especially, I think back to like when we first met, you were doing some of your podcast stuff at one of the events, and then it developed into you've worked camera with me ringside and added that hat to your many hats that you wear now within the wrestling community, to where I look back over this course of this past year for all of the stuff that you've done, and in all honesty, I might be behind the camera, but I'm envious of all of the leaps and bounds that you've done over the course of this year.
yeah. Actually, it's funny. We're talking about Dynasty. Chris is watching the show right now, and he
He
goes, poorly.
end up making myself look foolish. That's really what
Oh, wait. Hold on. It's Chris being Chris, because he says that head can't wear many hats.
Is he talking about mine or yours?
Probably mine.
All
And
Chris
then he says paper bag, maybe. Yeah, I've been told that before.
Of course he would.
And Richard, I see your comment. We'll get to that later on. But no, I appreciate it. Trust me. I said this when I had Chris on the show last week. I give him the credit for kicking my ass for getting the show to where it got to. And I mean, everybody kind of knows what happened. I mean, I remember I brought it up in the group chat when everything was happening after it was all a dream.
Yep.
And Chris is the one who sat there and he said, do the show by yourself. He goes, look at all the bigger name guys, the Chris Van Weeds, any of those guys. They don't have a partner.
Right. Sometimes having a partner can muddy the water, to say the
Yeah,
least. But you do a great job of conveying all the points that you want to hit. You're very entertaining. You engage all of your guests on the multitude of shows that you have done over the last year or so, to where it's really awesome to see. And you and I have talked about podcasting and stuff like that beforehand when we actually met at the first show. That's one of the things that you and I talked about in detail of
and
one and just, you know me, I'm a fan of wrestling. That's what it comes down to. Whether it be joining you on the podcast, whether it be shooting stuff for Dynasty, whether it's just me sitting on my couch and watching a pay-per-view. Wrestling is something that I take dear to my heart, every bit of what I do.
I get what you're saying. We got some more comments coming here. Actually, Chris said, "Sadly, I agree. Great job, Chris. I appreciate that a lot. And for you to say that, that really means something. With how many times you've busted my balls."
Chris, stop trying to break character.
And actually, Brian, here's the other thing. I'm actually awake right now.
I know, right? He's not busting your ball saying that you're sleeping right now.
If you know, you know.
Insider
But
joke.
yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other stuff going on in wrestling, but I want to touch on the Dynasty stuff first.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this card has. If Chris ever decides to do a behind the scenes of the making of this show, it could be a podcast in itself.
Oh yeah.
Overall, what's the biggest thing you're looking forward to on Saturday?
Ooh. That's a lot to unpack. But well, some I can't talk about some of things. I know that things are going to be very spot on for the show, and I'm looking for, with having the partnership with the Hall of Fame, I'm always happy to see any of the legends that get brought to the events and stuff along that line. But out of all of the matches that have been announced so far, I'm personally looking forward to the Punk and Fury hardcore match.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it sucks that I won't be there because I can tell you right now, I was looking forward to that one as well, especially after talking to Fury today, and he even said to me that what helped that storyline get across to become where it's become to now is the spots they've done on the show, both of them.
Yeah. And
And
like,
he said, and I sorry to get you up, but I asked him. I said, "Well, why?" And he goes, "Honestly, he goes because it gave narrative to the story."
yeah, the post that you shared earlier today too, I shared that post as well, just because I really liked what Fury said, showing off the trophy, saying that it's not fucking going anywhere, and I'm sure he's gonna keep that to heart.
Yeah, it's got to be. And like I said, I mean, people know I cover a lot of independent wrestling in upstate New York and in the Philly area, in the Northeast in general. And I don't think I've seen a rivalry get so personal than with Punk and Fury. I mean,
Yeah,
these guys, I hate to say it, if given the opportunity, could have a similar type match like we saw on Saturday with Punk and McIntyre.
yeah, I can definitely, you can definitely cut the tension with a knife. That's for sure. Where these two guys don't like to be in the same room with each other, let
No,
alone sharing a ring. But now that it's under the hardcore premise and being so personal, you know things are gonna get ugly.
that's why I'm very surprised they're pulling the trigger now, being that it's not Empire Live, it's not the Waterville Dome. This is a place, the Linda Performing Arts Center is not typically a wrestling venue. People have to remember that. It's more of like a performing arts, like Broadway type.
Yeah, but you know what? We got to break those stereotypes. We're breaking the mold. We're changing the dynamic.
Oh, I believe me. I know last year for the Hall of Fame, ECPW did the show there. And that to me was a regular show. I mean, the biggest part I still remember that was the main event of Taylor taking on Christina Murray, which was a fantastic match.
Being that you're not going to be at the event, what is the one thing that you were looking forward to most if you were to have come to the event?
What you just said, Punk and Fury.
Okay.
Just to see how far those two can go. I mean, we saw it back in April. In April at the Waterloo Dome when Punk got put through the table. And that was just a small dosage of it. And then over time, I mean, and guys, if you want, go back and watch the old stuff we did that I did with Punk and Fury. Stuff got very personal. That at certain points, I'm sitting there going, "Get a little warm in here." And I mean, go back to the one they did right before the one in August, and it was the three of us on screen, and I went to go, end the stream, and I guess I must have not hit the button. And they started going at it, the two of them.
Hit the button.
Nobody saw the quotes. Well, I don't know what quotes you're talking about, but no, but you see what that was what they said, and they were on screen together.
Right.
Can you imagine if they would have done that and they would have been in the room? Okay, I'll put it this way. You can take, and it's weird how you can take this rivalry and point it to other rivalries we're seeing right now in WWE. Another one where I think this could have been done. Look what we're seeing right now with Zachary Wentz and Wesley.
Yeah.
That type of physicality, which you don't see on the independent level anymore. You don't see guys that are at the point, I hate to put it this way, who want to kill each other.
Yeah. And I think that's what is really kind of hyping this match up a lot more too, is that it's raw. It has that real feel to it, to where you can tell that these two just dislike the other person, to where if the other person was on fire, they probably wouldn't put him out.
No, I think if that was the case, I think whoever was on fire, the other person would just get a bag of popcorn and just eat it.
Yeah, they'd enjoy the show.
Yeah, and it's sad because, well, not sad, but these guys literally are at the point where I know everybody says that Saturday is going to be it for them. To be honest, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see kind of how everything goes. But you and I both know, just like with WWE's match with Drew and Punk, that a match like this is going to shorten their career, to where these guys don't let shit go. They're not going to give up until they give every drop of blood that they can give to try to win the match. And it's going to take a toll on their bodies.
No, I completely agree. We got some more comments coming in here. Brian, we actually have a fan who lives in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
Who's actually a day one fan of this podcast. And he actually said he's been seeing all the advertisement that I've been doing, and he hopes that there can be some footage up on the Facebook page, which I think for this big of an event, I think there will be.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get a lot of footage, and there's a lot that we're trying to do on top of what you've already seen before at the Dynasty events for this one, and continue moving forward. Because one of my parts that I've really been talking with Chris about is not only have the venues gotten bigger, especially with doing like the Altamont Fair show, but just the overall dynamic for Dynasty has changed since the relaunch, and so is the style of how we're shooting stuff, what we're shooting, how we're shooting it, and you guys are going to see that come out on camera.
No, I can't wait. And also another comment here from Brian, from somebody you know very well and I know very well, backstage correspondent, your friend Billy, goes, "Hey guys, can't wait for Saturday." Yeah, guys, if you're, I said this a lot on my Facebook page. And I'll say this again, guys, if you're in the Albany area and you don't have anything to do on Saturday, go check it out.
Yeah, if you guys live in the local area to the venue for the Linda and you don't come to this event, you're gonna be sad. You're gonna be upset that you missed out on something special.
Okay, like what I guys, I'm just gonna forewarn you. We just got a comment from Sergeant Fury. Some people may find this a little graphic, but here we go. He goes, I will die before I let Jim's memory be ruined by Punk leaving with the memorial trophy. This is my life, and it will be my wow. Oh, right there. That should tell you right there how important this is for him.
Right.
This is no, go ahead.
The hill that he's gonna die on.
Yeah. There. I'll put it this way. If you got front row tickets for this show, you might want to bring in a raincoat.
Forget front row tickets, being that I'm one of the cameramen ringside, I'm worried about myself being around the ring.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was looking forward to, was being around the ring for this one, but unfortunately, stuff happens. But I do want to make one mention. I know there's some fans in here who are watching who are from the Philly area. Final score from the Mets game, 7-2. Mets are up 2-1. Just wanted to put it out there because I know there's a few people who watch the show who are from the Philly area who absolutely hate the fact of what the Mets are doing right now, but puts a smile on my face.
It also is bittersweet too. I'm a Mets fan, so
hey, it's wild to think we're one game away from the NLCS.
Right.
It's with how nobody thought anything of us this year, and we're one game away from challenging for the National League title.
Epic.
Which leads me to say this: if what happens, it will happen. Yeah, when I go down to Philly the end of the month for Battleground, I will not be wearing my Met hat.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Trust me.
I did that. I did that back in July. Was it no April? Sorry, I did that back in April. I wore my Met hat. I almost started 3 fights in off of Spooner Street.
Mm-hmm.
Was the one time I've ever turned heel.
some defend your.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Sometimes you have to defend your territory.
Yeah, but I also know I want to live to see the 27th. So, and I know damn well if the Mets pull this off, I am not walking into Philly, because I also forgot October 26th is also Game 2 of the World Series.
Yeah.
So I really want to make sure I live. But guys, by the way, Battleground Championship Wrestling is presented Nightmare on South Spooner Street, October 26th. Tickets are available. You're not going to want to miss it. The podcast will be doing a live special from the arena during the meet and greet. And I can also confirm now we will have a special interview with Wildfire Tommy Rich. And wrestling fans who may not know Tommy Rich, he is famous for having the bloody battle with Buzz Sawyer back in 1981 down at the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia for the NWA heavyweight title. So he will be on with me on that day. I want to thank Eric Sims for that one. But getting back to Dynasty here, you were saying before how, being the camera guy, I've noticed it also being the camera guy, you get a much different exposure to the action.
It's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
Sitting watching wrestling on TV or even just being a fan in the crowd, when you're ringside and up close and personal, it's a totally different feel.
Yeah, I still have learned that you want to make sure you're not in the action, so to speak, because I still have that image in my head of somebody going over the top rope and landing on top of me.
Well, so I've been I've been bumped a few times, whether it be getting too close to the ropes when wrestlers are getting flung into them, or action on the outside of the ring. At the Mall Brawl 2, there was a situation where I was at the ring apron and another talent was getting flung into the ring post. And that's where I was, to where I had to catapult myself out of the way, one, to not get in their way, because the last thing I want to do is affect any match. But two, I had to hurl myself into the barricade itself and not damage any of the equipment.
Well, I got a funny story. You know, one of the first times, actually, the first time I did camera work was back in March, actually, for Immortal. They were doing the show up in Dwaynesburg. And first time I'd ever done camera work. And I got the how-to beforehand. And I remember the match vividly. It was Pat Sawyer versus Richie the Man Man. And obviously, if you're up in the Albany area, you know exactly who those two guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody told me, and it's funny because the shoes I'm wearing now are the same shoes I wore that day. Yeah, I almost tripped on the mat because I was trying to avoid getting attacked, but that wasn't the worst part. One of the matches I had that night was the Guantanamo Bay Boot Camp match, which was the team of Blaze Haram, Bin Hamid, and Ziru versus the Nazi Mafia. And I remember this match vividly because if you go back and you watch it, you know, they're coming through the ramp, and I'm like on the other end. And I'm sitting there, and they're a weapon. And obviously, the first thing that came out, I remember this vividly, was the team was Blaze Haram, Bin Hamid, and Ziwu. They're coming out, they're doing their promo. Also, Nachi Mafia comes out, and they start swinging weapons. And I'm sitting in the corner, and I'm like just sitting there. I'm trying to get the action because they got literally both of them are coming at me this way. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, I got to get something. Okay. And then I was like, okay, don't die. So I had that moment too where I almost got whacked in the head by a kendo stick or something else. But no, I think as far as like, you know, with the camera work, people don't realize how crucial that is for pro wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's what helps tell the story. Whether it's the right angle, if you're focusing on a heel, if you're focusing on a face, all of that plays into what's going on in the ring.
Yeah.
Now, when I first started shooting, let me tell you, I was nervous as shit. I didn't want to make Chris mad because I didn't shoot the right shit, or two, that I was going to like trip and fall. So when I first started, you wouldn't see me actually climb up onto the ring apron, get into the ring for any of the action or post action. But now it's just an afterthought. Now, let me ask you this. Being that you've had a little bit of a taste too of being behind the camera, obviously with the podcast being in front of the camera, do you look at wrestling different now from like a perspective of looking at it through the camera compared to watching it on TV? Do you find yourself like picking stuff out from matches or how they're shooting and stuff along that line?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll even go a step further. When I'm watching wrestling, or I'm watching, you know, Raw or SmackDown, or even an indie show, yeah, I'm looking at it from the camera perspective, but I'm also looking at it from the booking perspective. Because,
Agreed.
like, you get a lot of fans who will sit there and watch wrestling. Like I said, I definitely dive into what we saw Saturday with Bad Blood. You have a lot of wrestling fans who will sit there and say, "Ooh, I can't believe this happened or this happened." Me, it's like I'll go to a show, and I've said this on this podcast plenty of times, and this way a lot of times people have their issues with me is because sometimes I'm too honest.
I mean,
and no, go ahead.
being brutally honest is sometimes people may have an issue with that, but a lot of the times it's the shit that they need to hear.
I mean, people have said, like, I'll sit there, I'll go to a show, and I'll be like, okay, this match makes no sense to me. Because I'm very big storytelling. To me, if I'm going 3, 4, 5 hours to a show, which 90% of the time, that's how long it takes me to get to a show. And yeah, I know I'm talking about it from my perspective, but it's probably other people's perspectives as well. But, you know, they don't have the ability to have a podcast where they can talk about it. And I look at it as, okay, if you're doing a show and you want to get people who are going to walk in, you're doing something that's going to attract them. And if it's just doing matches where it's okay, well, we got person A versus person B, no story, 20 minutes, go have fun. To me, why are you going to bother with that? I mean, that's sort of my issue with like AEW right now.
Right.
Is that AEW will sit there and put person A versus person B, but there's no story. There's nothing for the fan to get emotionally attached to.
Right.
It's more of a.
No,
go ahead.
I was just agreeing with you of that. There's no emotional investment into the storyline, and it's kind of haphazard. Like, what's the point?
To me, it's like okay, you're gonna have. I mean, but I always go back to this one match because this is probably the biggest pet peeve of mine. If you go back to Full Gear, I think it was 2021 or 2022 when they were at the Prudential Center in Jersey. I know they were in Jersey for it. And this is the one where William Regal turned on Blackpool Combat Club.
Yep.
If you remember, right beforehand, earlier in that night, we had the Young Bucks taking on the Lucha Brothers. And two of the best tag teams out there, I will not take that away from them. But I have a tough time watching a Young Bucks match for the reason we saw in that match. And there was the one spot where they're all doing super kick on each other. And it's almost like, okay, well, you go, and then you go. It's like you're just doing this spot for the sake of doing a spot.
Right. I mean, I'll even go into future cast of what's going on, because didn't they just announce too that at WrestleDream it's going to be Darby Allin versus Brody King?
Yeah,
we've already had that multiple times. Like, what's the point? Okay, I get it. Now, Danielson's taking on Mox at WrestleDream, which I also feel, what's the point? I get the turn for Mox on Danielson, and it's very flat is the term that I'll use.
Oh, no, I agree with that. And to me, my issue is, and I go back to Grand Slam. When AEW did the Grand Slam over in Queens, and it was supposed to be Darby versus Bryan Danielson. And actually, not even the Grand Slam. Go back to the Dynamite before Grand Slam, or like 2 Dynamites before Grand Slam, and it was supposed to be Darby versus Danielson at Grand Slam. Because if you remember, on Collision, the Friday before the Battle of Altamont, they did that Battle Royal thing.
Yep.
Where the winner became the number 1 contender for the title. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so they're going to give Darby a little, let Darby have his moment. And all of a sudden now they did what they did. So then also that show, they're like, yeah, well, we have to pull the match for Darby and Danielson because we're not sure if Danielson is cleared. Okay, fine, not a problem. Then why 3 seconds later are you having Nigel McGuinness in the ring saying, well, I'm challenging Danielson to a match?
Right. I mean, if you're Tony Khan and you want your talent to feel like he matters, they just totally took every ounce of credibility away from Darby Allin. That is
exactly
hands down the easiest way to say, hey, kid, you're not fucking ready. Which is kind of, it's upsetting because I really like Darby Allin. I like Darby Allin as a talent. I think he is very, very good at what he does. And I get the whole premise behind why him and Bryan Danielson were going to face off, because they're both from that area. Okay, if it's his last match and he's going to retire after that, let him pass the torch. Mox has been around for a long time now. to where it's time to start investing in some of the newer talent to carry your company long term wise down the road. You don't know how many years Mox has left in him.
And I agree with what you're saying. My whole thing is, especially with the whole thing with, because the way, and they were talking about this on Busted Open, and I agree with what David Garka said. The way they kind of pigeonholed and kind of pushed Moxley into this position, it leads me to think he's winning the title on Saturday. Because they kind of learned their lesson. I was talking about this last week when I had Billy on and I had Taylor Owen on. And I kind of said this last week when, AEW realized after they fucked up with the Undisputed Kingdom. And I understand injuries played a role in that. I'm not taking that away. But Undisputed Kingdom was supposed to be like this huge story, this big faction, and what it ended up becoming? A joke.
Yeah.
But then you look at what they're doing now, and this is the first opportunity. Mind you, we still don't know what the name of this group is. They haven't officially come out with a name. Like, is this Blackpool Combat Club still, or is this another name? And also, if you go back to Dynamite last week, Moxley said something very interesting. He said, "This is not about me," which leads me to think that we're getting a debut on Saturday.
Who do you think it's going to be?
I don't know, because, for a while I thought it was Shane McMahon.
Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of thing on is that it's going to be Shane McMahon.
But somebody else brought up an interesting point, though, because they just filed the trademark for Switchblades, something I think it was. Which, if you remember when Moxley was on the Indies with him and Sami Callihan, their tag team name was called the Switchblade. I forgot the rest of it, but I know Switchblade was part of it. Right. A lot of people think it may be Sami Callihan, but then that wouldn't go in line with what Moxley said a few weeks ago, coming out of was that a Forbidden Door, when he made the comment to Tony Schiavone and said, "Oh, this isn't your company anymore." Right. Like, are they trying to do almost an invasion? Because if you're doing the invasion angle, that makes sense for who they have in that group. Because what's the common denominator with Moxley, Marina Shafir, Claudio, and Pac?
I'm sorry, your audio cut out a little bit, John.
Oh no, what's the common denominator with all three of them? With all four of them, sorry. Think about it. What's the one thing all that whole group has in common?
I don't know. I'm grasping at straws.
They're all ex-WWE people.
Oh, sorry. That's the obvious. But yeah. You're...
And I look at it as they're all ex-WWE people, and we haven't really seen the WWE invasion, really. I know they're not going to call it WWE invasion.
Right.
But, if that's the case, then can't we get Keith Lee involved? He is an ex-WWE guy. They're not really doing anything with him.
Keith Lee's an afterthought in AEW at this point, along with 2/3 of their rosters that don't get airtime.
Yeah, we got another comment coming in here from our friend David, who goes, "I said this many times, AEW needs major work on storyline structure and how to push talent properly." I agree.
It's things that I feel like this whole Bryan Danielson Mox situation is similar to what WWE did a while ago when they don't feel that things are going. Mox is their go-to when they feel that shit's not going right. To where, all right, they weren't fully sold on the Darby Allin aspect of things. To where, all right, we're going to push that aside. We're going to throw Mox into it. Almost similar to how WWE used to circumvent and input John Cena into those scenarios. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous what they're doing right now. And we got another comment coming in here from Seth, who says, we are so used to seeing the same old WWE storylines that everything out of the norm is questioned. Yeah, it definitely, I can definitely see that. Hold on, Brian, I'm gonna try to figure out something because hold on, if I don't do the mic. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. For some reason, I tried using this microphone, and it's a good microphone, by the way. But every time I go to use the damn thing, either it becomes very choppy or it doesn't work. So I have to figure out why it's not working.
You're still a little crackly.
Yeah, that's just because I think the internet here, which I'm hopefully next couple of weeks I can get an extender.
We got to get you upgraded to FiOS.
Yeah, I'm still running on the AOL. You remember years ago, AOL used to do the free 100-hour.
Yeah.
That's what I'm running on still. But no, but as far as with AEW, I mean, and the one thing I said this constantly on the show is I don't want to come on here every week and bitch and complain about AEW.
Don't get me wrong. I love AEW. I love a lot of the talent. I like a lot of the stuff that they do. It's just sometimes it makes you scratch your head and you have to think to yourself, why? Why are we doing this now? Like, what is the payoff? What's the end goal? Or why did you make that decision?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing now, and like I said, because I know there's some AEW purists who's going to watch the show and go, "Oh, all John does is complain." No, I don't always complain about AEW because if anybody who knows me and knows how I do this podcast, if AEW is doing something right, I give them all the credit in the world. The same thing with WWE. If WWE is doing something right, I give them all the credit in the world. But the second they aren't doing something right, I'm not going to sit here and bitch a blue streak and say, "Oh, you're not doing this right." No, I'll just sit there and say, "You know what? This doesn't make sense. You should try it this way."
Right. You're going to call a spade a spade.
Exactly. Do they listen? Who knows? One thing I've learned doing podcasting for almost 13 years now, you never know who's listening.
Exactly. And trust me, by no means am I going to shit on AEW or any other company. I'm a fan of wrestling, hands down. Doesn't matter what company it is. It doesn't matter what I enjoy wrestling. That's it.
No, I believe me. I agree. I look at it as I want wrestling to succeed because as long as wrestling is succeeding, there's always going to be material for this podcast.
Right. Keeps us employed.
That's kind of the nice way I can put it. But actually, I want to talk about some WWE for a minute here because I know last night was the first 2-hour episode, first 2-hour Raw since July of 2012. Did you get a chance to watch any of Monday Night Raw last night?
So I did, and I didn't think Raw was bad by any means. It was different with it being 2 hours compared to 3. But I felt that it was okay. There were high points, low points, and in between.
Did you feel it was rushed at all at certain points?
I think that's the growing pains. I think that you got to think about it of, all right, they've been running for however long for 3 hours, and now you have to take 3 hours of what you already had planned storyline wise and shrink it down to 2 hours. I feel that's where you're going to see it bounce back and forth on how it's presented.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that I'm curious to see, and we'll see this in the weeks to come, weeks and months to come, is the timing. Because I think now more than ever, and this is one thing, crap, how many times have we heard Chris yell at us at a Dynasty show for wrestlers to stay on their time cues?
Chris yell at a Dynasty show? Never.
Never heard him yell before.
Show day, he is the most unapproachable person in the venue.
I'll put it this way, if you're trying to get a hold of Chris Envy and it's the day of a Dynasty show, good luck.
I'll take a page out of Chris's book on show day. Show up, do your fucking job. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly. Where I think you have a better shot, and this is going to be a bad comparison here. You would have a better shot of getting a colonoscopy from Edward Scissorhands than trying to get a hold of Chris Envy.
Listen, and the fact that I talk to Chris pretty much on a daily basis at this point about stuff for Dynasty, I understand some of the mindset at this point of all of the stuff that goes into putting on the events that we put on. So I definitely will give Chris his flowers in regards to the effort that he puts in, but Chris hates being acknowledged because it's not about him. It's us as a whole of what we do collectively as a group and the dynamic that we're putting out there to where across the board, everybody's busting their ass on show day. And sometimes Chris takes stuff to heart because he is the front man of this band.
Yeah, you can almost say he's like the Gene Simmons of Dynasty.
Just not as old. Right,
or
Chris?
Tall.
Yeah, or tall. I mean, I think those platform boots, though.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's not, and by the way, Chris, when you watch this later, that wasn't us calling you short. Trust me.
No, I'm calling you short. It's okay. I'm not very tall either, but I'm still taller than you.
Hey, how many times have people said to call me Oompa Loompa already? But, speaking about Oompa Loompa, this is a bad segue here. A couple of things I want to get to with Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And actually, we do got a comment coming in here from our friend David, who goes, Raw was advertised for 3 hours in the UK, even though it was only 2 hours, but they just filled the third hour with oh, that actually could be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean that would off of the event that wouldn't be bad filler wise.
No, that would not be bad at all. That would actually, but then the problem is you would have people who won't watch Raw who just watch the recap.
Right.
But obviously we saw Punk come out. I have to stress this. We saw CM Punk come out. Not Punk from that is going to be the Dynasty show on Saturday. Different Punk. I just want to make sure I get to clear that out on that one. In his speech that he had, do you think he was hinting at retirement?
You know, I look back into like that one press conference after the AEW show where he was banged up, bloodied, bruised. He's tired. Granted, he's not saying this time that he works with fucking children, but of the fact that that match was epic, it was brutal, and I think he's just dog shit tired. I think both of them need a well-deserved rest after that.
Honestly, I'm surprised we even saw Punk last night. I really figured if you wanted to have Punk say something, you could have had him do a video package.
Right.
Or like a live remote type of thing. And let him, I said this to a friend of mine last night, the next time we see Punk in a WWE ring, Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think he's at the point now in his career where he doesn't have to be there for every Raw, every week. Let him get some time off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a guy, no pun intended, who kind of left his blood in the middle of that ring down in Atlanta.
I mean, they gave, Roman 3 months off? I think he deserves that.
I can tell you right now, I said this on the show in the weeks leading up to Bad Blood, that I still think the Hell in a Cell match should have closed out that show. I get why they did it because of what we saw at the end of Bad Blood. But I still think, because to be honest, I was talking to a friend of mine, we were going over the matches, and we were talking about, I think after Punk was Finn Balor and Damian Priest. I think it was the next match.
Yeah, I have my notes. So I think the second match after their match was Nia and Bayley.
All I know is that whatever match it was, you could have put the best technical wrestler in there. You can't give me a match that would have or will be able to follow up what that Hell in a Cell match had.
I completely agree 100% that no matter what match they put on that card, following that match was going to fall short.
Yeah, and that's why I still think you could, because you look at that main event of Bad Blood, which was the tag team match of Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, took on the team of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I don't remember anything in that match except for the 2 returns.
So I'll go through the whole breakdown of the card. So starting with the Punk and Drew McIntyre match, great way to kick off the show. Was excited, everybody was fired up. Next match, Bayley and Nia. Who gives a shit?
The only spot, I just want to bring that match up for a second. The spot I did like was when Nia tried to do the Hurricanrana.
I will give Nia Jax a lot of credit. A lot of people do not like her as a wrestler, and she does not have a plethora of maneuvers that she does in the ring. The fact that she tried something new, granted, it wasn't successful or as successful as she would like it to be. She's trying to progress as talent. She's trying to better herself in the ring. Do you try that at a PLE?
No.
Not unless you have it perfected. But
also, my other issue with it, my other issue with it, I should bring it up quickly, is what they're doing to Tiffany.
In all honesty, going into that match, I really thought that you were going to see Bayley beat Nia Jax. Tiffany was going to either have already been at ringside and cost Nia the match unintentionally or intentionally, and then her cash in on Bayley and then her become champion. That's truly what I thought happened.
And I agree with you. My issue with what they're doing with Tiffany right now is, I said this to a friend of mine last night, they're almost doing a quasi-bullying angle when you think about it. Because how many times is not, because yes, obviously nobody wants to get cash in on, I get it. But the way Nia's playing this stuff to Tiffany, it's almost like, well, you know what, cash in on me, we're friends. It's almost like she's bullying her. It almost makes, and then like the few times where we've seen Tiffany kind of go to hand the ref the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then she looks, Nia sits up because she thinks she's Undertaker, and then kind of looks at Tiffany like, oh, well, what are you doing? And then Tiffany kind of sits and goes, almost like, she almost looks like a dog in headlights. Almost
right.
Like,
that the way the dynamic is between Nia Jax and Tiffany at this point, this goes a few years back, but it reminds me of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, to where how Alexa Bliss was kind of pushing that button on Nikki Cross and making her kind of fall in line and do what she wanted and such, to the point where ultimately we all know she's eventually going to snap on Nia Jax, and I crack her in the face with the briefcase and then cash in and pin her, or she's going to interject in one of Nia's matches and turn it into a triple threat. I don't know. I don't know where that goes from there. All I know is that you're going to see, before WrestleMania, her cashing in on Nia Jax.
I would say you probably see it by the time we get to Survivor Series. Because unfortunately, the issue is, you look at Damian Priest last year when he got the Money in the Bank, and he held that for a long time.
Ever.
But look at the end result that we got.
Right.
That magical moment at Mania. You're not getting that magical moment with Tiffany Stratton. It's just not. And it's nothing against her. She's a talented wrestler. The way they presented her.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, remember a couple of years ago when Otis magically won the Money in the Bank briefcase? And
The lunchbox Money in the Bank?
Yeah. And they ended up not doing anything with him because I think they ended up having him lose it to, if I remember correctly, he lost it to The Miz because that's when Tucker turned on him.
I believe so. I forgot who But again,
that's kind of how I see it with Tiffany. If they do pull the trigger, she's not gonna have a long run with the title,
right?
Because of how they and I could be wrong. She could cash in. She could go on a year run with that belt, and I'll come on this podcast and eat my words.
Yeah, I don't know if she has enough gravitational pull to keep the fans engaged long term with the title, unless storyline is laid out to perfection.
Exactly. Like, who I would love to see get a shot now? And what about Naomi?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that's what you're going to see potentially well, that's if she wrestles at Crown Jewel. I don't know because they haven't announced the card yet. But of the fact,
she is, because they're doing the champion versus champion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, for both the men and the women. I forgot that's what was. But yeah, I mean, that storyline wise, that Bailey and Naomi are going to get into it now because Naomi was up in the skybox with Jade and Bianca partying it up in the VIP lounge rather than being ringside for her. And with nobody had Bailey's back, so she had to soldier it by herself to where that's going to create controversy between the two of them. And Naomi's going to go on and start saying to everyone that will listen that she should have won the match between her and Bailey in the first place to where the result would have been different.
What's funny though? And I hear what you're saying, but I'm just thinking about this though. About where Survivor Series is this year in British Columbia. Would it be out of the realm? And I'm just putting this out there. I'm going to laugh in the sense of happening. If we get Nia Jax versus Chelsea Green, it would be different.
I love Chelsea Green, but I don't know.
It would definitely be different.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea Green's been putting in the work, and that dumpster match was great. That was such a good overall segment. As wonky as it was overall good.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it because I think Chelsea's going to win the title and go on like a 5-year run. But right now, when you look at the women wrestlers in WWE, she's probably my most favorite one. Because she makes so much, she does so great with such little time she has on screen.
See, and I sound like the typical fanboy, but I'm a huge advocate for Rhea. I feel like her skill set, her skills, her overall presence is just spot on for what she does. And all of the women on the roster are very talented, and I take nothing away from any of them. But if I had to count the number of wrestlers on the roster that would keep my attention or forward to a title defense, there's only a few that probably could manage a long storyline.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I was just starting out there with Chelsea Green. I just figured, they're in the British Columbia area. Give her that opportunity. I'm gonna laugh though. By the way, if all of a sudden we get to like Survivor Series, like 1 or 2 Raws before or SmackDown before Survivor Series, and they do announce, oh, we're gonna have Chelsea Green take on Nia Jax for the title. They sit there and go, okay, WWE, who's watching the show now?
Right. You know, the one thing that I think that I'm surprised that WWE hasn't done it yet, being that the male roster has so many different titles. I'm surprised that the female roster hasn't come out with an Intercontinental title.
Oh, give it time. I think that's probably going to be one of the things we see in 2025.
Because they think 10 years in advance, but I'm sure they already have a title design. I'm sure that they already have something positioned. It's just when's the right time to do it. But you have so many women on the roster that don't get utilized or just need an opportunity to elevate themselves a little bit more that aren't quite at that world title yet. And I'm not saying that the Intercontinental title is not on the same tier. I'm not away of provenance of that title, but I think it would help elevate more talent to where everyone would be like, yeah, I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, and I can definitely, like I said, I think, okay, let me rephrase this way. If they don't put, I still think in 2025, I still think Chelsea Green does get a belt at some point. Could it be for that mid-card title? Who knows?
When do you think Alexa Bliss if she's coming back? Do you think they wait to Rumble?
Yeah, I think at this point, unless you're getting somebody coming back, well, you have to also remember something here. Before we get to the Rumble, we have the move to Netflix. Before the move to Netflix, we had the Saturday Night Main event happening right over here at the Nassau Coliseum. Actually, the day of the next Dynasty show. But then you also have Survivor Series. So could it be in any of those time periods? And that's the one thing I don't remember WWE ever being in the position. It was like, oh, we should put all our eggs in for WrestleMania. No, you got the move to Netflix coming up. I think January 6th. I think it's the first Raw on Netflix.
You know that they're going to put on a banger of a show because they're going to make it apparent of why they made the switch.
Oh, I already read something today that they said it's going to be a pay-per-view type of Raw.
See, with going to Netflix, I wish that we could have commercial free.
Yeah, I do as well. And I also hope, the other thing I hope is, I hope it doesn't become like, JCW where it's, we're dropping the F-bomb every 8 seconds. But
no,
if it fits, I don't see why you have to bleep it.
Yeah.
But let's go on with the other matches that we saw on Saturday with Bad Blood.
All right. Priest and Balor. Again, I felt it was a throwaway match.
You could have kept that match on a Raw, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You did not need, and also
just any other for them.
Well, yeah, but I said this to a friend of mine. I said you could have switched that match with the last Monster Standing match.
Yeah, absolutely.
And done that on Bad Blood.
I would have rather have seen that match taken off the PLE and had the US title on the line or something.
Or, here's another novel concept. How about the Raw Tag titles? Or what are the frick they're called?
Right.
Are we forgetting the part that Finn Balor and JD are the tag team champs right now? Did we just all happen to forget that part of the
well, that just their title run as tag champs are.
I mean, if you want to, at this point, it would almost make sense to take the belts off of them at this point.
The feeling that I got from that match after it was all said and done, and being the way that it went, being just every other type of Judgment Day match of Carlito and JD getting involved, and it completely discredited them as a faction as a whole. Like, it completely sucked the life out of what they're trying to do, and there's no legitimacy left for the Judgment Day, especially the way that that match went, and Balor hitting the coup de grace a few times on Damian Priest, and then for him to get back up and hit South of Heaven for the pin. It was just like, what did I just watch? Why did things go down the way that they did, or why was this on the PLE to begin with? That that to me gave me like kickoff show kind of vibes.
Yeah, that I would agree on. Like I said, to me, it's a show, it's a match. You did not need to have that on the paper on the PLE. I'm sorry, even I still call it a pay per view. I forgot we have to call it the proper name, the PLE.
I like to refer to it as pay per view, but I know that everyone will make comments and massacre us for not referring to it as PLEs.
Yeah, but so we went through, and then I think there was a couple more matches.
So other than that, so you had Punk and Drew, Bailey and Nia, Priest and Balor, and then you had Liv and Rhea. But between that, then you had that segment with Triple H debuting the Crown Jewel title and just going into the dynamic of champion versus champion. Then you had Gunther come out and talk his bullshit to Goldberg, and I don't know if that's going to lead to, because Crown Jewel loves to have Goldberg on the card, of whether or not Gunther's going to face off against Goldberg. I love Goldberg. I grew up in the right time of wrestling. So being that I grew up specifically in the Monday Night, well, even before the Monday Night War aspect of things. Shut up, Chris. I know you're going to call me old, but we're the same of the.
Okay, Brian, it's funny. You keep saying the old comment. There was one time on the show where I accidentally, I didn't do this on purpose, but I accidentally called somebody from Dynasty old. and back, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because you keep bringing up the thing of being old, and it just dawned on me. Back in April, before Brace for Impact, I did that thing, the Dynasty Week, where I had on basically, I think I did like 15 interviews that week or something.
Yeah.
And I had patches on. And somehow one thing led to another, and I said something how Kristen isn't. I said something like, "Oh, she's not old. She's like 38, 39." And I didn't realize I said that. I looked at it as just part of the show until I got to the Waterloo Dome, and Kristen happened to be the first person I saw. I remember she looked at me and goes, "So I'm old." I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? And then of course, who'd she get right to tag with her? Billy. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk this way now. Just forget what I just said. Just keep walking. But yeah, I learned my lesson that day. Don't call everybody from Dynasty old, because you will hear about it at a show.
Right. Being that I'm an 80s kid, so being the fact that I grew up in the prime, I've watched great wrestling over the years. That I was a Goldberg guy when Goldberg first debuted in WCW, and the streak of Goldberg on WCW, and that was just one of my things. I mean, would I like to see Goldberg wrestle Gunther at Crown Jewel? No, is
No.
what I truly would say. I know Goldberg really wants to have a proper send-off match, and I get that. Does Gunther beating Goldberg add some legitimacy to him? It depends on the ring shape that Goldberg's in. If Goldberg shows up and wrestles like he did The Undertaker at Crown Jewel, then it does nothing for Gunther. It does nothing for Goldberg it's just a match. But I understand the premise behind it. Goldberg is always going to be Bill Goldberg. And I absolutely love it when I hear his music play. I love it when he comes out to the pyro. I like seeing him in the ring. I just don't know if that would be the right decision.
No, and I don't think we would get a crown jewel as much as I would love for. But I agree with you. I think right now it'd be nice to have a crown jewel and not have Goldberg on a crown jewel for once. Nothing against him, but the one thing I will say though that I did pop though was when Gunther turned around as Goldberg went to hop the barricade, come in, and you hear Gunther on the mic go, "Oh, okay, come on, Goldberg, I have 3 minutes for you."
Yeah.
I heard that. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yep, that was a little jab. Gunther promo work and mic skills have gotten so much better over the course of this past year, and it shows because he can make snappy little quips like that and just instantly get under somebody's skin.
Yeah, it is. Oh, we got another comment coming in here from actually the audio guy of Dynasty. And he goes, "John, your mic is cutting. Does it? I don't have a mic on it now. The mic I'm using is from the computer."
Yeah, I think it's because of the internet connection, John. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to try to get an extender, or what I might try to do, because I've had this laptop now since before the pandemic, and I don't think I've updated it ever. I think it might be time for me to update this computer.
Gotcha.
But unfortunately, guys, you got to. Unfortunately, not to sound mean here, but unfortunately, guys, kind of can't do anything about it now. But by next week, I should have this fixed, hopefully. But no, but as far as with Goldberg, yeah, he was a good wrestler. I'm not going to take that away from him. My only thing was I felt like he was a one-trick pony at the time.
But the old adage goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The way Goldberg's character was built, he didn't need that multitude of layers. You know what I mean? Now I'm so used to seeing guys doing a whole lot of move sets and the power game that Goldberg, Rock, I mean, yeah, Roman falls into that category too, but even Roman has changed dynamically in the way he wrestles at this point compared to when he first started with the Shield. When he first started with the Shield, he was just go in, bang bodies, and leave. Now there's more depth to that. But like Goldberg and Brock and stuff along that line, you look at some of the big guys throughout wrestling's history, they didn't have to do that. That was their thing. They're big, strong, and they're gonna beat you within an inch of your life because that's what they do.
Yeah, no, I get that. We do got some more comments coming here. HBO actually chimes in here, and he goes, 2 hours, 3 hours, better than one. I'm assuming he's talking about Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And then he also
Monday Night Raw.
He goes, Goldberg, Mecca. And then he also says, you don't need to do the flippy dippy shit. Which I get what he's saying, and that's, like I said, going back to the AEW stuff, that's one of my issues with the AEW.
Yeah.
How many times do I have to see 25 Asiato moonsaults or 25 suicide dives in a match?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't always have to be flippy and flashy to tell a proper story within the match. It doesn't always have in your face, just power for power. There's give and take for any type of match. And that's just coming from a fan perspective. Have I ever been in the ring? Oh, do I want to get into the ring? Probably not. But everybody has their shtick. I mean, look at Ricochet. Ricochet's always been high flying, high intensity, flippy, and it works for him. I mean, that's his thing.
I'll go this way. You know, you're not gonna see all the flippy dippy shit this Saturday as the Dynasty presents Return to Neverland.
You may see some flippy stuff.
I'm not talking about Fox flipping his hair.
I mean, what little hair he has, but of the fact that, I mean, you do have Jeff Nova on the card, to where
we don't know what he's doing yet. But again,
right.
we'll get into all the previous stuff at the end. But the last thing I want to get to with Bad Blood is obviously the main event,
right,
with Cody and Roman taking on Jacob and Solo.
Oh,
and
we
obviously
didn't talk about Liv and Rhea either.
Oh, actually, the only thing I will say about that, can I be honest with you? I did not like that match.
Here's the thing. I'll keep it really short and sweet for the Rhea Liv match. I loved 2/3 of the match. I fucking hated the ending. It was a complete disaster. I get bringing Raquel back, but timing was off. The finish was completely screwed because the timing was off. The fact from everything that I was reading of that, she was supposed to come out. She was supposed to hit the Tejada bomb on Rhea and not be seen by the referee and drag Liv on top of Rhea, and she was supposed to pin Rhea.
Yeah.
Oh, that. But you were directly next to the referee when you hit the Tejada bomb, to where ref had no choice but to disqualify Liv. Rhea won, and title doesn't change hands. Ooh, that was such a shitty way to end the match. Of the lead up to it, Dom being in the shark cage, I will give Dominic Mysterio all the props in the world for taking that spot, falling out of the cage, because we all know that things can go wrong, and that if something did go wrong in that spot, that it would have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
But what a cool talking point of Dominic Mysterio hanging upside down from a shark cage and Rhea Ripley beating the shit out of him with a kendo stick like a fucking pinata.
Yeah, no, exactly. We got some more comments coming in here, then we'll get right back into it. High Voltage Omar says, this is what happens at a live show. Shit happens, and you have to know how to adapt. Yeah, I agree. Going back to what we were saying before, Raquel, he goes, fucked up on the timing. He heard about that, what you were saying before about how the original plan for that match. And then
you on any type of live event, you have to be able to pivot. If you can't, there's no point of doing it.
Yeah, there might be a possibility you guys could see a cartwheel from High Voltage Omar on Saturday. Just gonna say.
Make sure you grab my attention before that happens, so I can get it on film. That way it'll be perished in the Dynasty archives for life.
Yeah, you mean eventually when we have the Dynasty streaming network?
I want us to have a mainstream platform for all of our Dynasty stuff. Like you and I have brought up before of the aspect of live streaming and stuff along that line. All in due time.
Yeah, no, I get that. Trust me. And I think the biggest thing is because I think the problem is, like, I'll give you a great example. I have people who watch this show who've never been to a Dynasty show, but because of my recaps that I do, are up to date on what's going on and want to go to a show, but they live in Virginia, Florida. And again,
you should.
go ahead.
to make their way up here and come to the Dynasty show.
Well, I will say this much, show. If you are in Florida right now, I did want to mention it's starting to show something until now. Hopefully, everybody who's in Florida, who's in the path of this Hurricane Milton, please be safe. Don't try to be a hero and try to like, oh, I'll I can stay the course. No, don't do that. So I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, everybody, please be safe. Don't risk something that you don't have to. I mean, things can be replaced. People can't.
Oh, HBO actually made a comment here. He goes, I have a fan from the UK that always asks about the Dynasty.
Hell yeah.
So
that's what we like to see.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's funny because the guy before, David, who I said this before, stays up till 2:00 in the morning on Tuesdays to watch the show. Has said that he wants to eventually try to see some live footage. So, guys, it's in the works.
Yeah, we're talking with Chris and trying to work things out. We're gonna be trying to ramp up like how quickly we can get out content and all of the stuff from any of the events that we put on a scale and faster scale.
No, I get that. Then Omar says, risk it for the bread, milk, and eggs. Yeah. I can announce this, though. Sitting in that chair that Brian is sitting in. Not that chair specifically, but he will be on the show with me this coming Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hi, Voltage Omar will be on with me, and who knows?
Yeah, you don't know what.
And I'll say it this way. You don't know what's going to happen, and the only way you can find out is you have to subscribe.
Yeah.
For One World Podcast.
Best way to find out, tune in.
Yeah, that's all. And I like what he goes, I'll be here talking nonsense. And Omar, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you right now, you're coming out here, you're getting put onto the hot seat, my friend.
Hot seat.
Yeah. But as far as, I want to get back to Bad Blood here for a second. As far as with Rhea and Liv, first of all, I think Dominic Mysterio, I never want to see a pinata. Just gonna say.
For your next birthday, I'm gonna get like Mysterio pinata.
I was gonna say, when are we gonna see the first indie company try to reenact that spot?
If somebody tries to reenact that spot, somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, that wasn't more of trying to do a spot. That was more of just luck. But I seriously hope, as much as I seriously hope Liv and Rhea are done for a while.
Yeah, it's time to move on from that dynamic. Let's kind of change the channel and move on to something else, which I don't know where you go from there. But
I probably in that position with that women's division right now. The only one I could see getting a shot at it, I think they should have done something with her about this a while ago. Selena Vega.
Yeah, I think Liv and Selena Vega would put on a really good match. I just don't know how we get to that point. To that, or what's the story behind it?
Oh, thanks. Time out the drummer. He goes, I'm about to change this channel and go somewhere else. And then the next thing was the laughing. Oh, he actually means it.
You would.
Yeah, he would. But I gotta admit, that's the first time anybody's actually told me that. But no, but as far as with that one, like I said, I would love to see Selena Vega get a shot. I'm trying to think of who else. That's on Monday Night Raw.
I would.
What about Lyra Valkyria?
That's who I would like to see next.
Yeah, why not give her a shot?
Lyra is very, very talented, and I think that she would put on a banger of a match.
Yeah, no, I definitely I can see that. I'm really trying to rack my brain here now as far as who who else we can see. That it's tough though when it comes to that though, because there's no, I'll be honest, there's really no credible women right now on Monday Night Raw.
Right. I mean, you've got that faction.
Oh yeah, Sonya Deville, Zoe Starks, and yeah. But here's the problem: Shayna Baszler, her career kind of got derailed big time. And let's be honest, should she be a legitimate threat? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But is she credible the way she's been presented? No.
No. Shayna Baszler.
Right now.
I feel like she's a great worker. She's very, very talented. But I feel that storylines that she gets booked in and the different stuff that they have her doing makes me reflect back to like Dolph Ziggler.
Yes. And that's the issue with her. Like I said, should we see her with the title at some point? Yes. But they booked her so bad, so poorly. It's like,
I feel like they need to shake up the women's division on both shows.
Or why don't we do this? Here's a great way to do. I've been saying this for years now. Why not do cross advertising? I'm not saying with SmackDown, NXT.
Yeah, I mean, you started to see a lot more. You're starting top main roster guys filtering down into NXT for little tidbits here and there and whatnot. But I think, yeah, certainly utilize.
Why not have like a Kalani Jordan? Why not have a Roxanne Perez? I'm not saying they got to be up there permanently.
Right.
I'm just saying do it that way, and legitimately, okay, then it gives Joe Tessitore, which by the way, Joe Tessitore on Monday Night Raw is amazing. I'm just gonna say it right now. He's one of the first guys who's made the switch from the sports world to the world of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Actually done very well for himself.
Yeah, I agree. I do miss Pat McAfee though. Granted, it's football season. I get it. I understand.
But I'm curious to see though, because when Netflix starts up in January, they said Cole and McAfee are going to become the commentators.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the commentary teams end up once they make the switch to Netflix.
The only thing I could see is Tessitore goes to SmackDown. That's the only thing I can see.
Who would you take off of SmackDown?
Well, you lose Michael Cole.
See,
I would switch those two.
Here's who I would have. I would have Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Raw, and Tessitore and Corey Graves on SmackDown, and I would get rid of Wade Barrett.
Well, I have a feeling Wade Barrett might be making a comeback.
I feel like when we had that one storyline in regards to like him getting up close and separating Drew and stuff, and then with the Sheamus storyline as well, there've been like little pokes to where you start to feel that. Granted, I don't know if he's in ring shape. I don't know.
I have no idea. All I know is with him, you know how nice I would love to hear. You know how much I would pop and balls and I hear, I'm afraid I got some bad news.
Some bad news.
I would just laugh if that came back.
It definitely would be it would be nice to see. I mean, it. Shit, how long has he been out of the ring for? I don't know. I would have to try to look up those details.
I got it. I'm looking up right now. My phone would actually work. That would be even better. But he, if I remember correctly, his last match in WWE, wasn't he getting kicked out of League of Nations? I think it was.
Yeah, the
That
faction
really,
that he Del Rio.
that faction. Um, his last match, according to this, it says he was retired in 2016. He didn't have a long career, according to what I'm reading here. I mean, 12 years is not really a long career, but yeah, he according to this, he retired in 2016 because he left. That was his last match. Then he was out of wrestling, God, till I think 21 when he came back for NWA.
Right.
Because of everybody's favorite crazy uncle, that Jim Cornette, opening his mouth on commentary. Because I think I remember correctly, they were teasing back, and this is back when NWA had was I'm not taking away what they're doing now. I think what NWA is doing now is incredible. But this is back when what was it?
Recently, and I wasn't able to go to the event.
I was lucky enough to go to the one they did on Long Island, and I will say this much: I was very disappointed by the turnout.
Mm.
I think because what happened was they changed venues. So when I heard they changed venues, I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna have a good turnout. They did not have a good turnout. They had maybe, I'll put it this way, to compare back to the Dynasty show, they probably had the same amount of people that we had at the Pride show.
Okay.
And I'm talking not the people who were there for the festival, who was actually there for the show.
Gotcha.
And by the time intermission happened, half that audience left.
Wow.
And I'll put it this way, and I've learned this over the years. When intermission happens, normally you'll hear like, 5 minutes till 5 minutes, get here. They never even did that. They went right to the next match.
Wow.
And
they just
I was sitting there talking to the slime balls. Which I will say this much: if Chris ever does a tag team division or a tag team show, whatever it takes, I would try to get them to a Dynasty show. Slime balls are really good. And
Envy, write it down. Write it down.
I'll just mention it in the group chat, and then have 25 people go, who?
Which group chat? There are so many group chats. Too many group chats.
The big one. I know what you're talking about. But as far as the main event, I want to dive into that quick before we get into the prediction stuff here before we wrap up the show for tonight. I'm very intrigued with that. With not so much with Jimmy coming back, because everybody kind of expected that, and I'm not really intrigued to see what Rock's did, because we all know that's leading to Survivor Series. I'm more intrigued what happened after Bad Blood. The altercation.
We're talking about parking lot altercation.
Yeah. And if you notice on Raw last night, when Wade Barrett went to go mention it, and Joe Tessitore said, oh, no, we can't talk about that. I'm very intrigued because heel Owens now. First of all, heel Owens under the Hunter regime, I think could be money.
Kevin Owens is so dynamic. He can play the babyface. He can play the heel, but he shines as a heel.
Yeah.
And I don't. Part of me almost had that feeling when they were saying, "Oh no, we can't talk about it yet," to where it almost gave you that feel that Kevin Owens went into business for himself in that situation, to where meeting Cody outside his bus and the conversation that it started as, and then the altercation that it finished as.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm very curious to see, because of the fact that now you got to heal Owens. Because more than likely, I mean, let's call it a spade here. We're probably this is Kevin Owens' heel turn, more than likely. So now you got to heal Kevin Owens. You got Rock back. Roman already said he wants to go after the title. If I'm Cody Rhodes, my head is on a swivel at this point.
Right. And then on top of it, not only do you have Kevin Owens coming for it, but look at the little nuances that we got from Randy as well for some of those matches. Iron title, looking Cody over and whatnot. You know that Randy wants another title run.
Yeah.
To where he's got a lot of targets on his back, and it's all going to depend on who's going to pull the trigger first. Obviously, right now, it looks like it's Kevin Owens.
Well, I'll be honest, you bring up Randy Orton to get one last title run. I would love to see him get a title run.
Me too.
If it leads to one match. And I'm not saying we have to get Cody and Randy.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the final send-off of Cena and Orton at WrestleMania, in which that's something
I would, as a wrestling fan, I know a lot of people sit there and say, oh, we saw this so many times. Yes, we did. But the fact that we can get this one last time.
Right. It's the overall importance of this match.
It's a time for, people who were born in the 90s and even the 80s to an extent, who kind of grew up with those guys.
Right.
Not saying anybody from the 80s is old, because if I said anybody from the 80s is old, I'd have half the dynasty locker room ready to kill me.
This is true.
So I learned my lesson. If I learned anything while doing the show for the last 3 years, you don't want to piss off any of the wrestlers, because then you can get attacked in the ring by Amanda McClaw.
This is true. I mean, you're off the owner either, because Chris has talked about giving me a few chops before.
Oh, I've been chopped, not by Chris, but I've been chopped once already by actually Marina Shafir.
Okay.
Yeah, I was chopped by her, but no, like I said, I kind of learned my lesson in that department, and you don't want to piss off wrestlers, especially wrestlers that go by the name of Anthony Gangone. I would say, did you happen to see the video at all?
In all honesty, I did not see the video.
Well, I have the video here, if you'd like to see it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, and then we'll get back into the Roman stuff, guys. For everybody who's watching, who may not know, this was my interaction with Anthony Gangone back at Seaside Heights show over the summer.
First, let me introduce to you the team of Aaron Roxas and Anthony Gangone, Dr. Sleep, and Amity Temple.
But yeah, that was my infamous moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that you were a little shocked to have hands put on you from talent at the event, but yeah, I
That
can.
was that was definitely a moment, and I have a few people who continuously will say to me, when am I going to learn my lesson and not piss off Anthony Gangone? So, but as far as with what we saw in that main event, I want to ask you this: how do you see now with The Rock coming back? How do you see that all playing out as we are on the road to Survivor Series?
So, I mean, everybody has their own theories and opinions in regards to it. One of the things that I saw today that could make sense is for the first time we may see a 3-faction Survivor Series match to where you may have the bloodline, the OG bloodline, the bloodline 2.0 with Solo, and the final boss's faction, and The Rock bringing in his own set of people per se. Do I think that that's going to happen? I don't know. I'm not sure of where the dynamic goes, but the look on like Solo and Tamatonga and Tongaloa when Rock's music hit almost looked unsettled, to say the least.
Yeah, I can see that.
So until we actually get that first promo from the final boss in regards to what's next, none of us are really going to know, because the Rock's going to do what the Rock wants to do. Being the final boss, he is going to do whatever the hell he wants.
No, I think
Whether it's utilizing the new bloodline to absolve the old bloodline and truly stake his claim as the true tribal chief. Well, final boss tribal chief, however you want to play it. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely kind of got me hooked into it. I would
Mhm.
like to see where it goes. I don't want it to be drug out for a very long time or a slow played storyline. Let's
No.
establish the dynamic and then build the hype up into the PLE that it's going to take place at.
Well, I do know because I know they taped Monday Night Raw for next week last night, which I still don't know why. There's no pay-per-view coming up. Oh wait, I think because they're on the UK tour next week. That's why.
Yeah.
I did not that I read the spoilers verbatim, but I did read something that supposedly Rock does appear at the tape-ins. So who knows if we're gonna finally get the answer here. But I want to, as we wrap up, well, last question I got for you on Bad Blood. Overall, what would you give it a grade of?
I mean, I have individual grades for matches, but as a whole, realistically, I probably would put it in the realm of like a C plus to a B minus.
Yeah, I would actually. It's funny. I think if you take out Rock's return, take out Jimmy Uso's return, you can't really say Raquel's return because that really didn't help anything. But if you take out those two returns and you take out the Hell in the Cell event, the Hell in the Cell part, it. I hate to say it. To me, this was a very lackluster pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, the grand scheme of things looked great on paper, but
Yeah.
what was conveyed or the way that the card was laid out, there was back and forth. Yeah, energy was high for the Hell in a Cell match. Then it dipped for the Nia Bailey segment, and then went back up for the Rhea Liv for the first half of the match, and then it was a dip for the Finn Damian Priest match, and then for the main event, I felt like the main event left me wanting more out of the event itself, because the way that Hell in a Cell match was put on and the body of work that those two put into that match, and some people will probably make comments or give flack for it, but I put that on par with the Austin Bret Hart match, hands down.
Yeah, no, I would agree on that.
There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, the fact that I don't know how Drew even could walk after some of those spots, like when he missed the Claymore and hit the edging of the steps.
Yeah,
Hell no, absolutely not. That
yeah,
that was just
wrong.
ugly. It was ugly to watch. I'm like, this dude's gonna be paralyzed. And then,
Yeah, no,
of
I agree.
course, the toolbox shot with the Crimson Mask and busting him open and needing 16 staples in the top of his head. I mean, when was the last time we got something like that? We haven't in a long
No.
time. And I'm
And
happy that the PG era is dying and going away.
yeah, I like it also because one thing I like about it, and I agree with you about the Ray, but the one thing I also want to add with the Hell in a Cell match, we didn't get the typical, okay, they're going outside the Hell in the Cell to the outside and they're going to go through the table. We got the match for what it was.
Right.
I think overall for me, I'm going to go, I know I agree with you in the grade, but I'm actually going to change it up a little bit. For me, it's going to be a C minus or a C plus.
Okay.
And I know that's kind of harsh, but I say that in the aspect of if you take away the Hell in a Cell match, take away the Jimmy Uso return, take away the Rock's return. What stood out?
Not much.
To me, this PLE was more to set up, I think, because the thing is, you don't remember most of that pay-per-view, other than Rock's return. That's the big thing everybody remembers. And Rock's return was to more than likely set up Survivor Series.
Right.
So, but last bit of stuff here. And guys, I understand. I know my microphone is acting up. Like I said, when we're done with the show tonight, I'm going to be rebooting my entire computer through the factory reset. And hopefully that does it. But last thing I want to get to is we have a actual pay-per-view coming up on Saturday, other than Dynasty, and that's WrestleDream.
Yes.
And I want to just go through the card quickly, kind of give our predictions. Apparently, this was announced as the pre-show match, and we're regarding the Ring of Honor World TV title, as Atlantis Jr. defends the title against Brian Cage.
Again, what's the point? I understand it's pre-show stuff, but like there's no direction.
No.
It's just a match for the ROH TV Championship. Okay, awesome. Why is Brian Cage in the match? I don't know much about Atlantis Jr. I haven't seen much of his body of work, but again, like to me, it's just filler.
That's more of a okay. We have a 0 hour match. We have to put something on. I don't know if they're going to call it 0 hour, but I'm assuming that's what they're going to be calling it. But let's go now because this match actually looks pretty good. Mark Briscoe defends the Ring of Honor World Championship against Chris Jericho of Lord and Trey.
I love Mark Briscoe as a talent. He's just exciting to watch. I just love it. His energy is infectious to where it carries over into the body of work that he does in the match. And Chris Jericho's Chris Jericho, and I've got nothing but respect for the two of them. And I think that it's going to be a really good match.
Yeah.
I just, I, I want I want it just to be those two. I don't want people to get involved in the match and ruin a really good match that we could all enjoy.
So I guess it's safe to say when everybody thought that Chris Jericho was going to be in Albany on Saturday, I know Ozzy's performing at Empire Live on Monday night. Yeah, it's safe to say that that's not happening.
Right.
Hey, could he be there Sunday? Who knows? Who knows? But so who do you see winning this one? Does Briscoe retain or does Jericho get the title?
I don't know. On this one, I don't know how much gas Chris has left in the tank is the learning tree, but I mean, what's the benefit of Chris winning the ROH World Title? Are you going to
Honestly,
take him
nothing.
off? Are you going to take him off of AEW and have him work events defending the ROH title? You're going to have him defending the ROH World Title on AEW? I I don't know. Again, that's where Tony needs to develop and create a dynamic of, all right, what ROH needs its own TV deal.
Yes.
And I don't know if that is going to come to fruition being structured with their new TV deal that they have moving forward. I don't know. I mean, I know that we have 3 different shows that don't feature a lot of ROH stuff.
Yeah, and I think now you're gonna have ROH, you're gonna have Dynamite, you're gonna have Collision. I think now you're gonna have Shockwave now. I think it's a new show that they're starting.
We're gonna have 5 nights a week of AEW wrestling.
And that's yes. And Tony Khan's gonna still be booking every bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as this one for me, I think Briscoe retains, but I think it's because somebody breaks off from the Lord and Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you that Briscoe retains. Because I don't think that it benefits Jericho to win the ROH World Title.
But I think if anybody breaks off, I think it's gonna be Big Bill. We've seen the last couple of weeks where Jericho has said something. Bill kind of looked at him and said, "What the hell did you say?" So I think Big Bill screws Jericho. Briscoe wins. Jericho's next feud is with Big Bill. Let's keep things moving here. We spoke about this match a little bit earlier tonight. Darby Allin takes on Brii King. Nothing's on the line. It's just a singles match.
Right. Nothing special there.
No. There's go for this one. I think Darby wins. You're in Darby's hometown, and I think if the plan is still for him to go up against Danielson for the title, I think you have to keep him strong. And
I agree.
Brody King to me is somebody who has been through the mud quite a bit, and if he takes a loss here, it's going to hurt him.
Right.
I think if you go the other way, and you have Darby take the loss here, I'm not saying it's going to like derail everything, but it's going to take him a while for him to gain credibility, I feel.
See, I disagree with you there. I think if Darby loses, it takes away all of his credibility right now, because that means he lost to Brody King, lost to Moxley, he lost his world title shot against Danielson, to where what do you have next for how do you trust booking him, knowing that he just keeps taking the loss after loss after loss? And I know he tries to build himself up of that he's got that no quit, and I get that, but how long do you try to ride that story out until you trust him enough to where, all right, now we're going to put you in the big match?
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. So, like I said, I think for this, like I said, for Darby wins. Brian, do you have Darby winning as well?
Yeah, I have Darby winning that one as well. I think that if they don't book Darby winning, that you might as well give Brody King the shovel and bury him outside the arena.
Don't be shocked, he might still do that anyways.
This is true.
But next match we got here is for the AEW TNT title as Jack Perry takes on Shibata.
I don't know about you.
With this one,
What's your stance
I
on
think
Jack
Perry
Perry?
retains. I think this is more just filler.
Yeah, I agree.
When he honestly, when he lost the Jungle Boy gimmick, and I know he went away for a while because of the whole thing with Punk.
Yep.
I don't know, because they really haven't. Because the issue is this: he left. He got sent to New Japan when everything happened with Punk, and came back. Punk was already gone from the company. Punk had already gone to WWE, and yet they're still showing the footage from what happened, and they never really dived in. They never had the, and I'm not saying they never did because they never had the opportunity, but they never dived into that whole thing.
Right.
And I think the whole thing with calling, I just want to mention the whole thing calling him the scapegoat. If Punk was still with the company, that would make perfect sense.
Right.
Punk is with the company anymore. Why are we still doing this whole scapegoat crap?
Right. They were utilizing that as a crutch because they weren't creative enough to try and develop a new avenue for Jack Perry to step into.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
Super talented. But the way things have been laid out, okay, yeah, aligning himself with the Young Bucks, great. But what are you doing with it? Nothing. So I agree. It's just filler. I think Jack Perry retains because I don't think that he's going to lose to Shibata. But again, it's one of those who cares kind of match.
Exactly. Next we got here is a triple threat match for the AEW International Championship as Will Ospreay defends the title against Ricochet and Takeshita. Now, this one, if you would just do an Ospreay and Ricochet by themselves, I would be intrigued by it because obviously we know what these guys can do together. Why putting Takeshita in here makes no sense to me, especially when he's been staring down Okada and the Continental title.
See, I think it's that they didn't know what to do with him in this scenario. Don't get me wrong. Putting those three together in a ring, I think surprisingly, that's going to be one of the high points of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I think it's going to even potentially steal the show with what they're going to put on. I personally would agree with you that I would like to see Ospreay and Ricochet in a one-on-one match, but you want to throw him in the mix too? Go right ahead. I am okay because it's just going to add a little bit more flavor to that sauce.
Honestly, for this one, I think I'll say this much: Ospreay wins. I think Takeshita eats the pin here.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I think if you do that, you can then do Ricochet and Ospreay on a big stage, just the two of them, and Ricochet still looks strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see one of those two hitting their finisher on I could I'm trying to think of how I would play this out in my head. I definitely think that Ricochet gets thrown out of the ring on the finish of one of those two hitting their finishers first, and then the other one dumping them out of the ring.
And then you can see, and I know where you're going with this, and I can see the scenario being played out. Ricochet can then turn around on the next Dynamite and look at Ospreay and go, okay, you might sit there and say you're the best wrestler here, but you didn't beat me.
Right. You didn't pin me in that match.
Yeah, so I can see that kind of being the launching point. But let's keep this over here because we got a few more matches to go over. I forgot these guys were still the tag team champions, to be honest. The Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, just in case anybody doesn't know who the Young Bucks are, takes on the team of Private Party. Yes.
I mean, that should just be my response in its own right. Again, what are the Young Bucks doing with their title run as tag champs? Nothing. What does Private Party really bring to the match? I mean, they're, again, super, super talented, but who wants to see that match?
Maybe 5 years ago when they first started, nobody knew who Private Party was. This match would have been good. But I think I was reading something since they won and I forgot when they even won the tag belts. I think they won them at I know it's been almost a year.
They've had the belts for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure of when they took them. Yeah, the Young Bucks are definitely going to retain because they're going to Eddie Guerrero their way into the win.
Yeah. Next match we got here. Actually, we don't know who the opponent is yet because I think the opponent for this match is going to be determined tonight, actually, on AEW. Yes, guys, AEW is live tonight, not
Tuesday.
Tomorrow, due to the MLB postseason right now. But it looks like we're going to be getting Mariah May defending her title either against, I think it's Britt Baker or Willow Nightingale.
I mean, it's nice to see Britt Baker back.
Yeah, I guess she's done getting pissed off at MJF.
Yeah, I'm sure she probably had to write like a 4-page apology letter to MJF and his girlfriend and whatnot to be able to come back. But, I mean, I would be okay with either one of them, but I think on a pay-per-view aspect, I think you have to go with Britt Baker.
Yes, but I'll also go a step further. I seriously hope they take the belt off of Mariah May, and I'm saying that for one reason. I said this last couple of weeks. All Mariah May is right now is a great value version of Toni Storm. That's all it's coming down to, and it's not. And Toni Storm had a fantastic run with the belt.
That was probably one of the best women title run that I've seen.
And we're all forgetting they put the belt on Mariah May. Look at where they were. They were in UK.
Right.
And I've said this for a while now. The fact that you want to attract the casual fan, yet you're going to put and I'm only saying she's the no-namer because unless you're a diehard wrestling fan, you don't know who Mariah May is.
No.
You're going to put the top title on her, yet the woman who you paid an arm and a leg for, Mercedes Moné, you're going to give her the TBS title?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I don't even think she's going to be on the card because right now you have, as of now, you have 8 matches. Okay, so she might still be put on the card.
Possibly. But
even with Mercedes Moné, I have my issues with because
agreed.
I feel like they're force feeding her being a heel. Even though when she was Sasha Banks in NXT, she had that heel run in 2015, 2016. She was amazing.
Right. That heel run back then was a completely different feel than now.
And the thing I don't get is you want her to be the heel, you're going to give her the heater with Camille. And again, nothing against Camille, fantastic wrestler. Obviously, we all know she's the longest reigning women's champion in the NWA. But then right before the last pay-per-view, you basically sit there and say, okay, Camille, you're not going to be with Mercedes, and Mercedes is going to win. Why have Camille then be associated with her?
Right. Exactly. There's no payoff there.
No. And then last match we got here, if my phone would actually work for me, which would be great. Your main event. Bryan Danielson defends the title against Jon Moxley. Obviously, we all know if Danielson loses, he will no longer be an in-ring competitor.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, a full-time in-ring competitor, sorry. I'm going to tell you right now with how this story has been going and what we talked about earlier, I hate to say this, but I think Moxley's winning the belt on Saturday.
And I completely agree with you. Again, like Bryan Danielson has talked about with his promise to his family of when is the time to kind of step back and walk away. If he loses, do I think he leaves AEW completely? Absolutely not. No, I definitely do not, because I think Tony Khan values him too much as an individual, with his insight and his rapport with the talent, and being able to help cultivate a locker room that isn't divided. He's a true leader when it comes to the way that he motivates people and tries to get them to elevate themselves to a higher standard, to where I think if Tony was to just let him ride off into the sunset, it would be a mistake.
Yeah, and I agree. I could see him becoming like a producer behind the scenes or almost like a coach. I think would probably be the best way to do it. But guys, that was our predictions for the upcoming WrestleDream show. And we got one more bit here before we wrap it up. As you guys know, this coming Saturday, the Dynasty presents Return to Neverland. And obviously, unfortunately, I will not be there due to the Jewish holiday. Brian will be there, being one of the fantastic cameramen that he is. And I want to get your thoughts quickly on some of the matches that we will see and some of the segments we will see. Here we go. Now there are obviously going to be other matches announced and other stuff happening. I'm just going off of what we're seeing on the match graphics that Chris put out.
Absolutely.
Punk and Fury. Let's start off with the big one.
Let's start off with a banger.
Yeah.
Banger after banger. No, in all honesty, I think Fury's going to win the match because, like he said in his comment earlier tonight, that you're going to have to pry that trophy from his cold, dead hands. And I think that's true to heart. I think it's going to be a knuckle buster, knockout, drag out, hide your kids type situation, to where it's going to be physical. It's going to, at some point, probably be tough to watch, because you're going to just look at people and be like, sometimes you get to that point where you're just like, stay down, just stay down.
Yeah.
But neither of these two are going to fit that mindset. These two are going to go until they can't go, and they're going to have to be dragged out of the venue, whether it be stretcher, ambulance, whatever it may be. But it's not going to be under their own power. But
No.
I think Fury ends up keeping the trophy.
And like I said before, if you are one of the cameramen or you happen to have front row seats, either bring an umbrella or bring a raincoat, because I think this match is going to get very bloody. But moving along here, from a match that went bloody to a match that won't see much blood, and that's the thumb wrestling match. Yes, guys, this is actually legit. I actually had the honor, you're going to laugh. When Seth first brought out the thumb wrestling thing, I was honored to have the first live thumb wrestling on a YouTube show on YouTube.
I remember being at the event that Seth debuted it for us with Dynasty, and I actually got to partake in said thumb wrestling. I lost, but that's what we're not going to talk about that. But I definitely think that this is going to be a very fun matchup between Seth and Dan Severn. And you never know. I mean, they're both very competitive people. So it'll be interesting to see how intense things get.
Yes. And do you remember who you face when you?
I do not remember who I faced at the event.
I remember
I didn't face Seth. I always wanted to face off against Seth, and I would be more than happy to throw my hat into the thumb wrestling ring of one day competing for the thumb wrestling world title and see how that
well,
goes.
I'll tell you right now. I had, like I said, I had one win in thumb wrestle, and it happened to be against Billy.
Nice.
Because it's basically the way it was. We were doing it was the show, guys, that we were talking about. Is it was all a dream. That was the show where this got debuted at, and I was doing the podcast live, and Seth looked at me and said, "Oh, John, I want you to come over here." He goes, "I want you to see this," and I was like, "I can't. I'm live right now." And that's when everybody moved over to where I was sitting, and me and Billy, we had the first live thumb wrestling thing. So I'm just gonna put it out there right now. Whoever wins this, more than likely you will be seeing me at the December show. Whenever the next thumb wrestle match is, I would like to put my challenge out
Now,
there.
now, John, hold on a second because I'm gonna tell you to pump the brakes a little bit because I know Billy and I know how competitive Billy is.
Mhm.
I guarantee you that if you want to kind of raise your hand up back into that thumb wrestling ring, Billy is going to want a rematch, hands down. She's not going to let that go. That's not going to be the only experience that you have with her in regards to the thumb wrestling match. And I'm
Well,
sure that if she watches the the replay of this or she tunes in and here's what we're talking about, she's going to be like, "Oh shit." She's like, "It's on. You know her. She's not going to back down from you."
well, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to put the challenge out there. The next time that thumb wrestling is at a Dynasty show, it's weird because I have the win over her, but I'm going to put the challenge out there.
Billy,
And
I'm not trying to speak for you. I am just advocating for you because I know you personally of the fact that I think that you are unsettled with the outcome of the first round of the John and Billy saga.
well, it's funny. I know her very well as well, and I'm going to put it out there that I will put. How about this? I'll put this challenge out there, and if she doesn't get a chance to see this, Brian, you can let her know this on Saturday. Whoever wins on the next time we do the thumb wrestling thing, if I end up losing, I will graciously give up my spot to go for the title to give it to her.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna have to
So,
bring Seth. We're gonna have to bring Seth in on this as well to because I don't know what the hierarchy of the food chain is in regards to the professional thumb wrestling league. I don't know if we just get to call our shots and face the champ, or if there's a pecking order. But I'm sure that we'll get to that point. We'll get some details.
yes,
Absolutely will. But
yes,
I
please do.
digress. I truly think heading into Hall of Fame weekend and having the thumb wrestling at our Dynasty event, I think Dan the Beast Severn is going to take home the win and bring the
Oof.
title to the event
Oof.
to rub in Seth's face.
Oof. But yeah, like I said, next we got here. Oof. Coach Kyle takes on Mikey Cheese.
What are your thoughts? Give me, since you're not going to be there, I want to hear what you have to say because I'm going to be ringside for all the action here.
Unfortunately, this one I can't really say anything. I've never seen either of these guys wrestle before.
I personally haven't seen much of their body of work either. I've been trying to do a little backstory into it a little bit, but I don't have enough to really make a heartfelt decision. I know that being that Chris felt that the dynamic or the dichotomy of this is strong enough to be booked on one of our events, it's going to be a good match regardless of how you look at it.
And I know for the women's match, I know originally it was supposed to be Tina San Antonio versus Kelly Madden. Unfortunately, it was announced earlier today that Kelly Madden will not be at the show on Saturday due to injuries at the most recent Ring of Honor tapings. As of now, we don't know who her replacement is. Chris hasn't put something out there yet. And I did tell Chris if he does find a replacement, if he wants me to make the announcement, I'll make the announcement. But as of now, we don't know who her opponent's going to be yet.
TBA.
I mean, could it be Taylor One Shot? Maybe.
TBD. I
I'm
mean,
just saying.
you know that's always lurking around. I mean, I know Taylor would absolutely step up and is always looking for a fight.
Yes.
So I definitely think that wouldn't be outside the realm of a possibility, but I can't speculate on who Chris is thinking to fill that spot. I know with any events, sometimes you have to pivot and can be nothing but flexible, and no matter what, it's going to be a hell of a match.
I totally agree. And then this one's not a match we're getting, but we're getting a talking segment as we're going to be getting the return of the Smoke Shop. As Brother Jonas will be sitting down with Maverick. And guys, we all know Mav.
I always love Brother Jonas. The fact that anytime he's around, he just makes people feel good.
Maybe it's because of everything he does. I mean, I'm just saying. But no, I completely agree. I think Brother Jonas is one of the most underrated talents up in the upstate area. And obviously, as many people know, Maverick right now is currently embroiled in a very heated rivalry with Fox.
Very much so. I mean, you were at the Battle of Altamont show to where kind of where things left off in that saga.
Yeah, I mean, but for people who are watching right now who may not know, this goes back a long time already. If you go back to Bracer Impact back in April, Fox kind of pushed Maverick. Because obviously we know Maverick, we know now is Fox has been going after Chris. Trying to get Chris to get back into the ring, but we all know that's not going to happen because Chris is currently retired. So then fast forward to Light Up the Sky, and supposedly there was something spilled on Fox. Now it may have not been Maverick, but he ended up throwing Maverick over the top and ended up basically beating him to a bloody pulp. Let me put it that way.
No. I'll clear the air. Maverick, because we do have the camera angle and the footage. Maverick definitely threw water in Fox's face.
Oh, no, I agree with that, but I don't think Fox should have gone the length he did.
No, I definitely think, Mav is not a in-ring talent.
No.
He shouldn't have faced that type of repercussion. Granted.
And then we all know, lead into the Battle of Altamont, Fox was, and I put suspended in quotes because we all know how well being suspended in Dynasty actually lasts. Just saying. When I had Chris on the show, Chris specifically said he did that suspension with all intentions of trying to calm Maverick down.
Right.
And obviously we know Fox, as Fox said when Fox was on with me a couple weeks ago, he said it was his twin brother who happened to look exactly like Fox.
Identical twins.
Yeah, but identical to the point they have the same haircut.
Fox and socks. What do you want?
Yeah. And Maverick got into the ring to try to cause some issues, and Chris ended up punching him. And I was actually standing right there when it happened.
I was also, and I know that spot lives rent free in Chris Envy's head right now.
And now we're going to be hearing from Mav. I know a lot of fans got to hear from Mav last week. I think it was last week on this show. And again, guys, definitely go back and watch it because Mav really opened up about his issues with Fox.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure he's going to shed more light on the situation with the smoke shop.
Absolutely. I mean, we're also going to probably see Johan in action. I would think so. The guy hasn't defended the title since he won it. That's not just me saying that. Ask every other wrestler on the Dynasty roster. They've all said the same thing.
I am just a cameraman. I am not going to speculate or create tension amongst the talent.
Nah, I mean, I could, but because I won't be there. But then wait, I'll be there in December. So, yeah.
All I know is that you know the champ's gonna be there. Yeah. I don't know what's in store for the champ. I just know that it's always a good time when the champ's around.
I totally agree. And then we're also going to probably hear from Black Rose, who has been going on record for the last couple of weeks since the Battle of Altamont, saying that he should be the number one contender for Johan. So we'll see what happens.
You know he's got a lot to say. And ultimately, he's got even more to prove.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to.
Oh, I agree 100%. But guys, like I said, I appreciate everybody who watched tonight, everybody who commented. And guys, this Saturday, if you're up in the Albany area, go to the Linda Performing Arts Center, which is on Central Avenue. You can't miss it. Especially if you're up in the area, you know the area very well. For a great night of action. I think doors open at 5:30, I think. Bell time's at 6:30. And the nice thing also, and I say this every week with Dynasty, there's not going to be a late night. It's not going to be one of those things of, oh, we're getting out of here. Oh, shit, it's, 11 o'clock. No. You're out of the show more than likely. Maybe Saturday might be a little bit later because it's a Hall of Fame weekend. But figure you're out of there no later than 10:30.
No matter what, it's going to be a great show. If you got to travel a little bit, by all means, come up to the area. Come check out what Dynasty has to offer. You're not going to regret it. If anybody's looking for tickets, head over to the Dynasty fan page. All of the links for obtaining tickets for the event are on the site. And I'm telling you, from being behind the camera to being in the crowd, nobody's going to want to miss what happens.
No, not at all. And it's going to be a huge night of fun. It's going to be a huge night of action. I'm kicking myself that I won't be able to be there.
I know. I'm upset that you're not going to be there, but I look forward to being able to have you next to me in December, my brother.
Absolutely. I will be there. And also, guys, some other shows I have coming up as well. October 19th, I'll be doing the Battle of the Borough show in Elmwood Park, New Jersey, where the main event of that will be Crowbar taking on Papadon. So you're not going to want to miss that. Then the next day at the Mecca, 106 Bergen Avenue, Brii Combination brings their next show, Nightmare at the Mecca, with the main event of Darius Carter taking on Anthony Gangone. And then this all leads up to October 26th, Nightmare on South Spooner Street, Battleground Championship Wrestling, the 2300 Arena, where I kid you not, one of the matches will be, and I quote, Shelton Benjamin versus KC Navarro. So you have that. You have so much more. And guys, like I said, go support indie wrestling. I say that every week on the show. And especially go support the Dynasty. The Dynasty has been, has given all of us incredible opportunities. And I know Chris hates it when we give him his flowers because he feels like it's not about him. But the Gene Simmons, the David Lee Roth, I'm just trying to think of the Freddie Mercury. I'm just trying to think of every like 80s rock band here that I can think of off the top of my head. But he is the guy in charge of this. He is the front man. This is all because of him. And guys, again, it all goes down this Saturday, October 12th, live from the Linda as the Dynasty presents Return to Neverland. We're also, by the way, we also forgot to mention, there will be the debut of the Diamond Division title as well.
Yes, we did forget to bring that up. I look forward to seeing that belt in person.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories and seeing all the pictures from now. I don't know if it's going to be both of them, but I am looking forward to seeing the pictures from the incomparable Jason Zupardi.
Yes.
I cannot wait to see these pictures. Like I said, it's kicking me that I will not be up there this weekend. This was the one weekend I was looking forward to, but plans change. As we know, wrestling card subject to change. Also, by the way, special appearance, I do want to mention this. Tony Atlas will be there, and Dan Severn will be there. That's all we know as of now. Could other people show up? Who knows?
Who knows? You never know.
You never know. And yes, I'll say this again. I am laying the challenge out there once again in regards to thumb wrestling. Me versus Billy, where I am so confident that I will win, that I will put my opportunity to go for the title on the line.
You heard it here first, folks. Challenge is the ball is in your court, Billy.
So, like I said, and also, guys, I also want to make one more mention. Around the Ropes podcast is also now the voice of the Dynasty. Any Dynasty news, you know damn well we'll be talking about it right here on the podcast with Brian. I want to thank you for hopping on. I appreciate it a lot. I want you guys to kick ass on Saturday. Have a great time.
Hell yeah. We're going to do what we do. I'm going to help run everything the best that I can around the ring and shoot the best that I can shoot to give you the best product that you can watch, being that you can't be there. We miss you not being there. We want you to be there at every Dynasty event. I look forward to seeing you in December, to coming up to the show. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on the podcast, even though sometimes I can be a little long-winded because I don't get much talking time being behind the camera. I got to stay quiet or else I get yelled at by Chris Envy. But I really do appreciate the opportunity. It's been great being able to recap and predict things for wrestling, for past shows, future shows. Talking Dynasty is always a good time, no matter how we split it.
Absolutely. And Brian, you know the door is always open for you to coming back on. All you just gotta do is just shoot me a message and just be like, hey, I want to come back on. I say this with everybody with Dynasty. It doesn't matter if you're a in-ring competitor, if you're Chris Envy, if you're the commentators, the backstage reporter, or the guys behind the camera. Everybody who's a part of Dynasty is always welcome on this show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have been on the show with you, brother.
All righty, guys. I'm pointing the wrong way now. For Brian, I'm John. This has been Around the Ropes Podcast. Hit subscribe on the YouTube page. Subscribe to the Dynasty. You're not going to miss it. And guys, I'll say this one last time. Get your tickets. If you can't get your tickets, you can't get your tickets online, by the way, purplepass.com/HOF. That's purplepass.com/HOF. And guys, we're out of here. We'll see you guys soon right here on the
Do
Ropes
it.
Podcast.